All right, I am very bullish on Bitcoin increasing in value and Bitcoin gaining adoption by people over time. And in this video, I want to reason with you as to why I think that will happen. So stick around for the whole video. And let me preface this right now. So first of all, a lot of people say that what's happening right now in traditional markets, a lot of people say that it's a lot like what happened in the financial crisis of 2008. A lot of people say that. I don't think so, right? There are differences. So banks today, they're not as leveraged as they were in 2008. We don't have the same real estate fraud that we had in 2008. Now, some of the proposed solutions are the same as 2008, sure. But other than that, it is different. I would say that the crisis today is a lot closer to 2002. This is the post 9/11 recession. Post 9/11, I want you to think about it. Think back. The markets were down. Everybody was afraid. Nobody wanted to travel. Cruise lines, airlines, hotels. There was a lot of talk of those things going to zero because nobody was ever going to travel again. Everybody was just going to stay home, stay hunkered down, because going out in public means that terrorists might get you. So people were fearful. So what happened next? The Patriot Act got passed. We had some of our liberties taken away in the guise that, this could only be temporary, but we need to do this because we need to stay safe. So what happened after that? Well, the economy bounced back shortly after. People eventually got over the fear, but we never did get those liberties back. Here we are almost 20 years later, still in the Middle East, still fighting those terrorists, still getting molested at airports, still living under an ever-increasing surveillance state, still losing our privacy more and more each year. And even though it was all proposed to us as something that only needs to be temporary just until we beat those terrorists, the American surveillance state and everything else I mentioned is now the new normal. Governments used the crisis to take more power. Why do I bring this up? The reason I bring this up is because it is my belief that the U.S. government, combined with the Chinese government and probably more governments, Russia, Australia for sure, they will use the fear and uncertainty that everybody is feeling right now to increase their censorship over us, specifically by implementing a national digital currency, one that can be tracked, one that can be censored, and eventually they will ban paper cash. That is the control that they will seize in this national crisis, in my opinion. And because of this, more and more people over time, and this isn't going to happen all at once, this is something that happens in waves, but more and more people over time will opt out of FedCoin. They're going to opt out of China token, and they will opt in to Bitcoin because Bitcoin is decentralized, permissionless, censorship-resistant, undebasable money. Okay, so that's my thesis. My thesis is that governments will use the pandemic to implement a tokenized dollar, one that can be censored, one that can be tracked, and because of this, people will opt in to store their wealth in Bitcoin. Let's unpack this. So first of all, we know, as in we have plenty of evidence, we know that both the US and China are in the early to mid stages of creating their own digital currency to replace the paper dollar. Let's start with China. In China, first of all, everybody already pays for everything digitally in China. They use WeChat, they use their cell phones. It's commonplace to use your cell phone to pay for goods and services in China. But beyond that, and we know this because China has said this, China is in the process of creating their own tokenized currency that they sell to us. They sell this idea to the people and us by saying that China wants to stay tech innovators. But in reality, and I think it is very logical to assume that China is really doing this to further their control and censorship. I think we can all agree on that. So how about America? Well, America, they're a little less shameless about censorship. They like to wrap up their censorship in the guise of protection and safety. So in America, there is also evidence that we're creating our own digital currency. First of all, just recently, within the original stimulus bill, there is language referring to a digital dollar. They originally talked about how a digital dollar would be a good way to distribute the stimulus. More than that, and I think this really is the canary in the coal mine, Brian Brooks, who was the chief legal officer at Coinbase for years. He's one of the guys who spearheaded Coinbase creating their own USDC stablecoin. He was there creating Coinbase's stablecoin. So he has just left Coinbase, and now he works with Steve Mnuchin to take a senior role as the U.S. bank regulator. He will be the second in command at the U.S. Office of Comptroller of Currency, OCC, and I believe that they have hired him because he has experience both legally and otherwise, and they need him to help tokenize the U.S. dollar. Countries around the world, if they're smart, are racing to tokenize the dollar. And to further explain this, watch this clip, CNBC, Anthony Pompliano, explaining to the skeptical CNBC anchors this exact same thing. Like the video, support the channel.
You say it's a store of value. I'm not going to get into an argument with you over that. I will say to you, though, we will reach a point where the U.S. dollar will become digital. Other global currencies will be digital. How then could Bitcoin be a store of value?
Yeah, look, if I'm the United States government sitting it from a rational seat, I think that they should tokenize the dollar immediately, right? If you look at China, they're tokenizing their currency. There's other countries that will follow. What's going to happen is there's not going to be a competition between digital and non-digital currencies. Every currency will be digital. What we're going to have is a competition of monetary policy. And if all of a sudden, let's say China has a digital yuan and we don't have a digital currency, it will be much more accessible for people to buy the Chinese yuan in other parts of the world than the U.S. dollar. And so you might see higher levels of adoption of the Chinese yuan than the U.S. dollar. So if we can tokenize or digitize the dollar fast and drive that adoption globally, we've got a chance to keep that as the global reserve currency.
But now, to Joe's point, why would you own Bitcoin if you could own the U.S. dollar?
I ultimately believe that people are going to opt for something that is not manipulatable, is not seizable, is not censorable.
Not debasable.
Not debasable, et cetera. And so I think people are going to continue slow at first, but over time, more and more people will choose a currency that a government does not control.
So let's get into the details as to exactly how the U.S. is going to do this to you. So one of the ways that the U.S. will sell the tokenized dollar to us, besides the fact they're going to say it's going to be easier to catch criminals, they're going to say it's going to be safer. They will also tell us that if you use paper currency, you will make people very sick. It's too easy to spread somebody a virus by exchanging paper money. So if you want to save grandma and grandpa's life, you need to get rid of your cash and you need to get everybody on board with this real quick. What's the matter? You don't want to save grandma and grandpa? I mean, you know, you see how scared people are today, and this is something we can all empathize with. But you don't think the same people who are staying home today are also going to be the same people who will allow the government to take away paper cash and implement a digital currency? I do. And even if and when the coronavirus is cured, they're never going to go back to cash. They're never going to give up that power. There's always going to be another scary threat. And I'm not implying that the Chinese virus isn't something that we need to take precautions with. It is serious. I'm saying that people gladly and willingly give up their freedoms for safety in times of turmoil. And governments gladly take it, and they're not known to give up that power once they acquire it. So, I believe that people will opt in to Bitcoin because of this. Not all at once, and not with all their wealth at once, but given time, as trust and awareness for Bitcoin increases, I think that people will gladly opt into it rather than be controlled and censored. And more than that, once people realize that Bitcoin cannot be debased, that's going to be a whole nother reason why people choose to opt in, because US dollars are getting debased more than ever, and it's going to be real easy to do that with a tokenized dollar. And more than that, just thinking about Bitcoin in general, as Bitcoin's price starts to go up, people will tell their friends about it, and more people will put money into it, and people who already have money in it will put more money into it. Bitcoin is this endless positive feedback loop. Plus, if governments start implementing tokenized currencies or if Facebook's Libra launches, that's going to make people very familiar with tokenized currencies. Think about it. Right now, using Bitcoin and Bitcoin in general, very foreign to people. But if people have, these wallets on their phone already where they're, transacting FedCoin or Libra coin, it's going to be a whole lot less foreign. And I think it's just going to be a no-brainer. Oh, this censored currency? Oh, Bitcoin's censorship resistant? It's undebasable? Hell yeah. And now it's your turn, everybody. I'm calling on you. First of all, like the video. That's going to get this video out there to as many people as possible. But more than that, post it on Facebook. Post it on Twitter. Send this to a friend. This is a real possible future. Some of what I said is based on 100% truth. Some of it is based on speculation. A lot of it was my opinion. But this is definitely a possible future for all of us. So let me know in the comments what you think. I'll see you tomorrow.